I also called in one for an area as well. I'm just wondering why we haven't took the opportunity to put any of these before committee, because obviously members have done an awful lot of work in the past. So just if I could maybe get an answer to that, convener, thank you.
Okay, who's going to pick up that one? No?
I can answer some of those questions, convener. The Gilston application and the Earth applications are as reported by Mr. Whittle at the last committee meeting. In terms of the Gilston application, there's work ongoing and work to complete following the committee's site visit, following the committee consideration of the application. That work's ongoing, so it wouldn't have been appropriate, or the application wouldn't have been ready to have brought to a special committee meeting at this particular time. In terms of the Earth application, you'll recall there was a large number of items requested for further work at the predetermination hearing, and that work is also ongoing. And it would have been the similar situation that we wouldn't have been ready to have brought an application back to a special committee at this time.
No, actually, you're happy with the response, probably. Was it content with the response?
Thank you, convener. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, the meeting, or planning committee, the emergency meeting on the 22nd of March. Yeah. Any questions with regards to that particular meeting? Or can we set the minutes?
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, item 4 is the engineering application started by Gillies. Garfield.
Thank you, convener. It'll be myself providing the update report on this application. Yeah, happy for me to proceed just now.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Members will recall that this application was originally considered by the committee on the 16th of March, when it was agreed to continue the application for an unaccompanied site visit. The site visit took place on the 28th of March. The case officer showed the area of the former quarry that is subject to this current application and described the proposed development and showed the proposed plans, including the site sections and levels information. The site history, the consultations and representation received were explained at the site visit. Members asked questions about the site history with specific reference to planning permission P090771 FUL, which was for regrading and landscaping of the overall disused quarry site. Members queried the duration of infilling activities at the site and asked if the approved restoration works had been completed. The case officer confirmed that the restoration works were not complete at the wider site, noting that planning permission was granted in 2011. Members asked about the type of materials which can be used for infilling at the site and when materials were last brought into the site. The case officer advised that the type of infilling material would be controlled by a SEPA license, but inert materials with a topsoil and then landscaping is expected. It was advised that it was understood that materials were last brought into the site towards the end of 2021 and appear to have been used to form a rough access track to the lower quarry area. Members asked questions about the reason for further infilling activities at the site in the context of an existing approved restoration plan that remains to be completed. The case officer explained that a supporting statement to explain the background to the quarry restoration, current status of infilling at the site, and justification has not been submitted despite being requested of the applicant. It was considered that no new matters emerged from the site visit that would alter the officer recommendation to refuse planning permission. The previous recommendation is reiterated as set out in section 7 of your report. Today, that recommendation sets out 4 reasons recommended for refusal. Reason 1 relates to conflict with the countryside policy of the local development plan. Reason 2 relates to the impact and appearance of the proposed engineering intervention on the surrounding countryside. Reason 3 relates to amenity impacts from noise and disturbance. And reason 4 relates to potential drainage impacts. Thank you, Convener.
Okay. What about the questions on the floor?
Convener,
Convener,
I asked for this to be called in to give members an opportunity to see the site, and I'm very glad I did, because it's in a terrible state. The officer Julie at the site visit had showed us quite clearly, especially the worrying situation about the proposed site levels. One of the questions that we did ask is that obviously that's been, I think it's 10 years since permission was granted for remedial work that's never been carried out. I think there were questions also asked about what was the opportunity for enforcement on this site, because the visual impact of this site is absolutely terrible when you go by in your vehicle, and the fact is that it needs to be done. It needs to be finished. But the fact is that I would agree with the council officers that the proposal that's in front of us today is maybe a step too far in terms of the height. But the fact is that the planning officer had stated that they were going to try and enforce the original application. So therefore, I'm quite happy to go with the officer's recommendation, and with the view that we need to go back to the 2010, whenever it was, to ensure that the remedial work's done to the specifications that was agreed then. So I'm happy to go with the officer's recommendation and formally move that.
more than happy to second that, Vice Provost. I didn't attend the organised site meeting. I did go to remind myself just exactly where the application was, told independently. And it's clear that previous decisions have not been implemented by the applicant. So I'm more than happy to second the motion.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Grant?
Thank you, Convener. I would also like to come in and echo the words of Provost Buchanan. If you turn to page 16, 7B4, there's extensive planning history relating to this application site and surrounding land. Some of the planning history is detailed in the report. The most relevant planning application to the assessment of this proposal of further infill and land arising of the P090771 pool was in 2009. And the applicant has admitted in his own admission that this has not been completed. So rather than give them new powers to complete, should we not be thinking that this has got to be completed first? Because to quote the province, it's a step too far if this hasn't been done. Thanks, Convener.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Nimble?
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I think on balance, the officer's recommendation in relation to this application is the correct one. I'm curious, the recommendations 7.14 is to do with the drainage situation. I'm just wondering why there's been no proper drainage survey submitted along with this. And if you could maybe confirm what sort of dialogue has taken place with the applicant regarding the drainage situation. If we can get an update on that.
Brent,
Thanks, Convener.
I can answer that, Convener, Councillor Nimmo. Yes, in looking over the files for this site, there's an extensive planning history, as alluded to in the papers. And from what I can see, officers have since, immediately since the grant of the 09 reference, which was granted in 2011, have been in dialogue with the applicant and or his agents over the piece in relation to getting a topographic survey that was required by a condition, because there was concerns that the levels being worked to weren't those that were approved in that permission. There's also been attempts to get information about the final landscaping and drainage on the site, and from what I can see, councillors, is that there hasn't been an awful lot of response from the applicant, and as in the report before you, a statement was requested in terms of a justification of need for this current application, but none's been forthcoming, to be honest.
Thanks very much for that, Donald. Thanks, Convener.
Water.
Thanks, Convener. And I think I'm in agreement with others in terms of what's been moved. I think the site visit was useful, and I think one point that, as the Provost was saying, for those visually passing, the site may look a mess, but this application wouldn't do anything at all to deal with the situation of the area at the front from the roadside. That's not the nature of the application, and I think it's important to state that this application relates to the area behind, and we were able to visit that. And I would, as I think I can detect from other members, give all support to our planning colleagues to look at the necessary discussions and potential enforcement action, and discussions to try to bring those existing planning applications and schemes into, into fruition, into completion. I think it's not just premature, it would be counterproductive for us to have another planning application approved when one previously, which has been outstanding for such a long time, hasn't been adequately enacted and followed through on, and that would give me great concern. Indeed, so I'm glad that nobody is proposing that, but I think that there was concern from members on the visit as to why that hasn't happened, why it hasn't followed through, and would ask officers definitely to be following up on that, and we would give them all support available to do so. Thanks, Convener.
Okay, thanks for that. Anyone else? Okay, can we accept that we seem to have a unanimous position? Can we agree that position?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Just before we break up for the last time in the session, can I just say a few words? First of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Blackwood and Hughes. Both of them have indicated that they're not intended to stand for re-election. I thank both these members for their diligence. So Blackwood is one of the best attenders at the committee. You can always guarantee that he'll be there. Also guarantee that he will put things by the book. And so, I hope you enjoy your retirement, Jim. You certainly deserve it. Gordon has been here 10 years and has 2 terms. And again, has always been a member that has an exemplary record for attendance, and equally has been put things by the book. So to these two members, can I just say, hope you enjoy your retirement. I don't know if you're taking up golf, but I don't know if you're in it, because there's a putt up one of the trees in Dollar Park has been here since 1974. That that's signing my frustration at the game. But these two members are obviously departing the scene, and they will be missed. Both of them will be missed. To the rest of the members who are seeking re-election, can I wish you all the best in your endeavours. Obviously, some members maybe a bit more than others, but you expect that. And but this committee, I think, has functioned reasonably well, despite the Moan situation, and the courtesy and assistance that have been given is second to none. I'd like to thank each and every member for their contribution to that, and for being the considerate members that I know you all are in relation to decisions that have taken. Some very big applications have been before us, and some contentious applications have been before us. So the just best of luck, and I hope that because the planning is done for full, I can actually wish you the best of luck and not appear partisan. So good luck, and thanks very much for all your help and assistance that has been given.
Convener, could I say at this stage, I've said it before, I said it at the full council, I would just like to thank you for your outstanding service, not just in this committee, but in the council over the many, many years that you have been here. It's difficult for us. We realise that you're stepping down, obviously, for medical reasons, and I'm sure that every single person, not just in this committee or in the council,